Before we get started, I usually don't watch much college basketball or care that much about college basketball or pay much attention to college basketball, but last night I saw John Wall play on Kentucky, and that guy's a special player. He's going to make a fantasy team real happy for a lot of years. The coach has taken a lot of heat for his run-up in games, and he's in first place. He's probably a top-tier team, even without his run-up in games. He had a really good draft. I mean, Mo Williams is a guy that a lot of people passed on. He's playing great. And then Channing Frye, Jason Terry. He's got a deep team. I like the Chris Duhon pickup. I think the coach is fine. The coach is where you want to be. A lot of teams would want to be in the coach's position. You have a deep team, and you have a squad to compete. And you're there early on, even with the run-up in games. Super Stickman Dam, probably the biggest surprise team of the year thus far, way at the top. I said early on Monte Ellis was going to have to be a big factor for this team to compete, and Monte Ellis has just been on fire. He's had some big surprises. I mean, Marcus Camby, we've seen him in the top 10 before, but Marcus Camby at 7, Luol Deng playing really well, Hedo Turkoglu, Larry Hughes, a lot of guys you wouldn't really suspect. Just surprising, overall surprising. Dwight Howard at 94 too, and this team is at the top. I mean, I think this team only goes up from here. Balashot Collar has clearly rebounded from his horrible start. He has a very good team, and his guys are playing like they should now. Jason Kidd, Tim Duncan, David West. Ben Wallace is probably his biggest surprise of the year. Pickup. Wallace is playing really well. But why this team isn't better than it is because it hasn't had any real surprises. It hasn't had like a young guy that's really shined. He hasn't had that young prospect, that big surprise. He doesn't have that on this team. Spencer Hawes isn't giving it to him. I like the Joel Przybilla pickup, and then throwing a couple disappointments. Caron Butler, Ron Artest, and this team is just kind of floating in the middle. The Andres Biedrus injury has been devastating. That's a keeper of his. Everybody, for the most part, has had big injuries, though. I don't think that's any different than any other team, really. Injuries, you just have to deal with them. Everyone's got to deal with them. They're part of the game. Dirk Dribblers, pretty deep squadron here. The Samuel Dalembert pickup was good. I dropped him. That was stupid, really stupid, considering I am not doing well on boards and blocks. That was a horrible move. There's been some commentary by Dirk and others on the lack of trades. And I think Dirk's team is a perfect example of why we haven't seen trades. You look down the list of these guys, he's got plenty of players in the top 100. He's a competitive team. And that's like a lot of the teams out there. Anytime you're competitive, you're not desperate to make all those moves. And a lot of times trades happen out of desperation. Right now we don't see a lot of desperation in the league, so we're not seeing as many trades. A lot of people have hope that they can win, think they can win, even if it's misguided optimism. Shuttlesworth, disappointing for him so far. I do think this team rebounds by end year. The Rashard Lewis suspension hurt him big time, and then Lewis just isn't the same on the team with Vince Carter and Barnes and all those guys. I think Lewis is not ever going to be what he used to be in terms of a fantasy factor. I'd say Gilbert Arenas is still a major disappointment on this team, given the fact that he's not injured and still hasn't been able to crack the top 100. I mean, he's 132 right now. He's played every game. Gilbert Arenas. I mean, that's bad. Chris came in your mouth. Your team is bad. Just not a deep team. Outside of Kobe and Nene, you don't have a whole lot. Rudy Gay's giving you something. Winner, probably the deepest team in the league. Is the deepest team in the league. Having sustained the amount of injuries I've sustained this far, and guys are coming back now. Gasol's back, Chris Paul's back, but definitely had more injuries than anyone else this year, and to maintain in the top half has been pretty encouraging. Definitely a top 3 contender moving forward. I think we'll be there the whole year fighting for the end. I don't have any huge advantage over anybody. My big men are lacking. My boards and blocks are horrible. Dropping Dalembert was just could lose me the year. That was a rash decision. super mad one night when I saw Dallenberg's stat line and just let the guy go, and it was a mistake. Don't make rash decisions. Braun's a very, very good team. Probably going to be there fighting towards the end. The Brook Lopez deal definitely got the better end of that one. Hasn't been faced with too much adversity yet. His only injuries are Blake Griffin, a rookie, and Mike Miller, which isn't very devastating. Dirk Nowitzki, Baron Davis, Steve Nash. I guarantee you one of those three gets hurt some point this year, is out for a significant amount of time. Jermaine O'Neal, always a risk, but he's not giving you a whole lot anyways. Regardless of all that, solid squadron. Good job managing this team, and I think you're going to have a fighting chance to win. Suck it, also competitive team, good manager. Definitely will be fighting towards the tail end. I think the honeymoon with Brandon Jennings is slowly going to wind down. I think Brandon Jennings probably finishes somewhere in the 70s or 80s. Andrew Bynum's going to get hurt some with Gasol's return, already has been. And then a lot of these younger guys are starting to tail off slightly. Ronnie Brewer, Wilson Chandler, a bit of a disappointment. Derrick Rose, I don't know how you can defend the guy. He's ranked 141. He's not comparable to Dwayne Wade at all. He can't even dunk. I mean, not that dunking shows athleticism necessarily, but he's not comparable to Dwayne Wade. I don't know what Derrick Rose's problem is. I really don't. But you couldn't name any other great point guard out of the last 5 years. Chris Paul, Deron Williams, Dwayne Wade, any of those guys. None of them had a bad sophomore year like Derrick Rose is having. I would have serious concerns about him. Marc Gasol, on the other hand, clearly makes up for that. Huge surprise. He wasn't even on my radar. The guy's ranked 23rd, and he's a center position. Nice work there. Cowboy Trader, after me, Cowboy Trader's team's currently riddled with injuries. Andre Bargnani, Danny Granger out for a month, his best player. That kills you. Jameer Nelson, of course. And Lewis Williams, all out. That's tough to take. You basically can't take that. I don't know what you do with your team moving forward here. Your team's not deep enough, I think, to stay competitive and have a chance to win. You don't want to finish in last place, of course, and once these guys come back and are healthy, you probably have a pretty good chance of maybe fighting for a top 3-4 spot. The year is long, you can't forget that. But at some point, you might want to make a decision to build for next year. Allen Iverson pickup, great, especially with the injured Lewis Williams, having both those guys. I think you're going to be happy with Allen Iverson and DeJounte Jones, too. I think that was good. Trading Brook Lopez, I think, was a big mistake. I know Calderon is good, but I wouldn't have made that move.